Hello, this is episode 2 of What If International Relations Reset. If you didn't watch the first episode, I suggest you do that because otherwise this will not make any sense to you, but with that, let's get right into it. So, in the first episode, we focused a lot on the Americas and on Asia, and not so much on Europe and Africa, so we're going to focus a lot more on them in this video. So, first of all, Russia has kind of made an alliance. You can see they've made a color for themselves because they've annexed part of Ukraine. And so they basically go to a lot of countries that are near them and basically say, hey, you want to join an alliance with me? I'm pretty strong. And a few countries will take up this offer. Poland sees a good opportunity to expand since a lot of their neighbors are in an anti Russian alliance. Romania also sees the same opportunity. Georgia is scared of Russia, so they decide to join in. And Finland also decides to join this. And all of a sudden, the Yellow Alliance looks very cornered. And so they plead for help, and they're like, hey, there's a lot of strong countries. If Russia gets super powerful, then you're going to be at risk. And Germany decides that they're going to be the protector of Eastern Europe, which means that Germany invading Poland has just gotten a lot more possible. Slovakia joins this alliance because they're just generally afraid of two Russian allies neighboring them, and Hungary will do the same. Czechia will decide to stay neutral. On the other side of things, France wants to expand, and they have an easy target in Belgium. And so they will start invading into Belgium. But the Netherlands sees that if Belgium gets invaded, they're going to be next, and so they decide. To join Belgium in defending against France. Obviously, France is stronger, so they are slowly but surely advancing into Belgium. But it's not going to be fast enough. So France is like, hey, Germany, you want to invade into the Netherlands and Belgium? And Germany considers the offer. But you know who really doesn't want Germany to invade into the Netherlands and Belgium? That would be Russia. Russia realizes that if France and Germany are aligned, they would be anti-Russia. And so Russia decides, right as this offer is being made and Germany's considering it, to tell Poland to invade into Germany. And Poland complies. They think that Russia's going to help them. They're not. And so Poland is now invading into Germany. And they've gotten this much before Germany turns that around and starts invading into Poland. Belarus also starts invading into Poland, as well as Lithuania. They try to invade into Kaliningrad but can't. In fact, Kaliningrad starts invading into Lithuania. But now Poland is getting squished on two sides by Belarus and by Germany. But this has done the exact thing Russia wanted it to, because Germany is now not helping France in the war. France is still invading into Belgium, and the Netherlands now sees that they're probably cooked, and so they offer France to basically make an alliance with France in exchange for dividing up Belgium between them, and France sees that as an absolute win, and so it says yes. And I don't know if this is the exact borders between Wallonia and Flanders, but let's just say it is. Okay, back to the war between Russia and Germany, since this is going to be a pretty important war. It right now seems that the yellow powers are winning, but not Moldova, because they are just getting absolutely clapped by their three neighbors. They really knew that their only hope was to get saved afterwards, so that's what they're hoping is going to happen. Russia will start invading into Belarus, and their Ukrainian puppet will also start invading into Belarus. Estonia is going to get taken care of by Finland, and pretty quickly and pretty well at that. So yeah, Estonia is done. Latvia is trying their best to fight back, but it's not going too well as Belarus is also getting invaded. But Poland is really crumbling. They have a very strong army, but they didn't expect to get jumped this hard by so many opponents at once. And yeah, the western half of their country crumbles while the eastern half is trying to hold off. The Ukrainian puppet state starts to get invaded into by the Yellow Alliance, and they're finding it easier than they expected because the Ukrainian people don't really care. Romania, though, turns their attention onto Hungary and starts invading, forcing Hungary to withdraw, and Slovakia on their own decides that it's not worth it and decides to just focus on Poland, and things are not going well for them there either, as Poland is starting to push back. Belarus decides to just stop defending against Russia because they think the better strategy for the war is to connect up. And so they start really pushing into Poland, and Germany does the same. And they manage to meet up. But because of Belarus's strategy, Minsk is captured for sure, and just Belarus in general has pretty much fallen, as well as this entire eastern segment is going to fall pretty soon as Kaliningrad starts invading into the rest of Latvia. Poland is pretty much screwed. They pretty much lose all of their territory, and Hungary is also starting to get liberated, but Kaliningrad still cannot be invaded. It's too much of a fortress, and the Eastern Front is starting to come crumbling down onto the Yellow Alliance. And the 3 remaining members of the Yellow Alliance, seeing how this war is going, decide to beg Russia for a peace treaty, and Russia is going to be nice to them and agree to let that happen. And these are what the new borders of the region look like after the peace treaty. Estonia becomes a Finnish puppet. Ukraine stays as it is, but Russia annexes all the other yellow countries that were here. Poland is forced to be completely evacuated and restored, and Romania annexes Moldova. Afraid of what's going to happen to them if they don't, Czechia joins the Yellow Alliance, so the Yellow Alliance still has some people in it, but it's very quickly deteriorating. Seeing this victory and not wanting to let it go to waste, Russia and Georgia will agree to currently invade into Azerbaijan and Armenia, and unfortunately for those 2 countries, Russia and Georgia are way stronger. Turkey will decide to third party, so that'll make it even worse for Azerbaijan and Armenia, but it'll also mean that Russia and Georgia don't get all of the spoils. And this is what they end up agreeing on. Turkey annexes a little bit of Armenia, and Azerbaijan is partitioned between Russia, Georgia, and a new puppet state that is created by Russia and Georgia that is going to be kind of co-administered between the 2. Seeing Russia's power grow and how Russia is kind of weakening their power, Turkey will then join the anti-Russian alliance. Okay, so we've talked a lot about Europe. Now let's talk a lot about Africa, because a lot of things are going to be happening there in this episode as well. First of all, Nigeria and Ghana, who kind of became friends in the last episode, will finally make their friendship official and create an alliance. And then they'll each go invading one of their neighbors. So Nigeria will be invading into Cameroon, and Ghana into Burkina Faso. And Cameroon will not stand up well. They can't get any allies to join them in their fight against Nigeria because most of the countries near this are afraid of Nigeria. And Cameroon will have their north taken first, and then their south will slowly fall. Meanwhile, Ghana moves some of their troops through Nigeria to take Burkina Faso, but Burkina Faso gets Niger and Mali to join them, and that immediately cuts off a big thing that Ghana was trying to do, and also, just in general, leads to Ghana starting to lose. Cote d'Ivoire will even join this war against Ghana, and now Ghana really needs Nigeria to help them, so Nigeria will expedite their war against Cameroon, beginning to commit atrocities, but it will work, and they will rush to formally annex Cameroon so that they can begin their war against the rest of the Sahel. First invading into Niger, who is just a very weak country compared to Nigeria, and generally these 4 countries combined are probably weaker than just Nigeria. But Nigeria has been talking to some other countries, and they're able to get one of them, Senegal, to join in. It makes sense. Senegal was one of the other countries that wants to expand, and they see a lot of land that they could get from Mali, and so they start invading into Mali. And Mali basically decides to sign a peace in which they try and hopefully not lose too much land because they feel like they're going to lose. And so for now they just leave the war, but they will have a lighter peace after it. Niger gets cut into 2, which is pretty bad because most of this is just desert that doesn't matter. And seeing pretty much all of their actual populated territory get taken, they will also surrender. And Burkina Faso is still fighting for some reason, but they're not going to win. And Cote d'Ivoire just decides to silently leave the war, so they won't get any punishment. But Burkina Faso, despite trying to surrender, only an unconditional surrender will be accepted, and they don't agree to that. And you can see Nigeria is very quickly becoming a local powerhouse, and taking all of this land and forcing Niger to become a puppet state. Guinea and Senegal at this point also agree to divide up Guinea-Bissau, and Guinea even joins in on Nigeria's alliance for this. And so Guinea-Bissau is just kind of cooked. It's over for them. And this is how they divide it up. And now things are getting really scary for the rest of West Africa. And so they decide to band together to try and stop the influence of Nigeria. And even Chad joins in on this alliance. Gabon will join in on Nigeria's alliance. And right as they're thinking of invading into Congo, Congo decides to join in on the Pink Alliance to prevent that from happening. The CAR also joins in on the Pink Alliance. All the way down in southern Africa, South Africa will be invading into their two tiny neighbors, Lesotho and Eswatini. And unfortunately for them, they just don't stand a chance. They're both quickly folded into South Africa. But the neighboring nations of South Africa are afraid that they'll be next, and South Africa is stronger than all of these. Probably not combined, though. That's why I knew this color alliance is created between the 4 other countries that border South Africa. South Africa is mad about this, but they can't really do anything. All of a sudden, something crazy happens as Ethiopia will join Nigeria's alliance. And all of Africa is starting to realize that these expansionist countries are just going to ally with each other and take over all of Africa. This is made clear by Ethiopia's invasion of Somalia. They first take Somaliland, which is a little bit more difficult, but not really because it's not recognized and not very powerful. Then they invade into Somalia proper, and it just goes extremely well, and no one even tries to stop them. And now Ethiopia has just taken over pretty much the whole Horn of Africa. Kenya and Sudan both sense they might be next, and so join the Pink Alliance. And then Rwanda invades into Burundi and just clobbers them. And they ask to join Nigeria's alliance, and Nigeria says no, which they don't understand. Like, we're also expansionists. Why are you not letting us go into your alliance? And Nigeria's like, you're too weak, you're too small. And so Rwanda, to kind of betray Nigeria, will join the Pink Alliance. And then South Africa sees an opportunity, and so we'll join Nigeria's alliance. And so we'll join Nigeria's alliance, which will make whatever that alliance was, merge with the Pink Alliance. And so all of a sudden, Africa is kind of becoming into 2 camps. This episode is focused a lot on Europe and Africa, so let's focus on some other regions as well. The US decides to try and spread its influence abroad, and so opens its alliance up to any country in the world, not just those in the Americas. And a few countries will take their offer. Iceland will actually decide to join the US's alliance, as well as Ireland. Ireland is afraid of the UK. Iceland is just like, we don't have an army. It's probably good to have like a stronger country to protect us. Right as France is going to invade Spain, Spain will also accept this alliance. And so the US's alliance is starting to expand, which leads to the idea that, hey, alliances need not be regional. Besides the US's alliance, the strongest alliances in the world are definitely China's and Russia's. But as of now, they haven't really interacted with each other yet. But something might be about to change that, as the Taiwan Strait seems to be a very big hotbed of activity, and China lands troops in Taiwan, knowing that the US won't protect them, because obviously. And although the Cyan Alliance is alarmed by this, Taiwan's not in their alliance, and so China will be able to annex Taiwan no problem. But this is going to start to alarm the Cyan Alliance, and so they will go to an unlikely ally, and they will go to Russia. And they will basically say, hey, Russia, do you want to merge our alliances? And Russia's like, no, I have way too much control over my alliance. And Russia's like, no, I have too much control over my alliance to consider joining an alliance that has another powerful country in it, like India. And so they're like, okay, do you at least want to work together to stop China? And Russia's like, sure. So Russia and China are no longer neutral towards each other, they now hate each other. As for some smaller things that are going on, Saudi Arabia decides to quickly take out Qatar as well as Kuwait, because why not? Serbia announces their intentions to invade into both Montenegro and Kosovo, and so these two countries are like, countries first go to Germany, because they're like, Germany is kind of the anti-expansionist one, and Germany's like, no, because if Serbia then joins Russia's alliance, then we'll be dragged into a war. And so then they go to Russia, and Russia's like, yeah, you guys can join our alliance. And now Serbia's really mad and realizes it was really stupid to announce their intentions to invade a year before they were going to actually invade. That was a really stupid thing to do, and now Serbia feels stupid. And Germany doesn't even let Serbia into their alliance, so Serbia just is sad. However, someone who will let Serbia into their alliance is France. So Serbia feels a little bit happier after that. Then Denmark asks to join Germany's alliance, and Germany says yes, because Denmark was at no risk of getting into a war. And this will make something really interesting happen because Denmark owns Greenland. And the US, they wanted to have influence in Greenland. And so they basically start bad-mouthing the German alliance and saying bad stuff about it and basically saying, you shouldn't have done that. We need Greenland. It's like our right. And then US troops, as well as Icelandic troops, start to be seen. Oh yeah, Iceland got an army, by the way. US kind of pressured them to. They start being seen in and around Greenland. And all of a sudden, the southern tip of Greenland, including Nuuk, is taken by Green troops. And Greenland, who is somewhat autonomous from Denmark, will decide to just surrender. However, this does happen despite Denmark's wishes. Denmark did not want Greenland to surrender. Denmark then declares war on Greenland, which doesn't exist anymore, it's part of the US, and starts sending troops to get back the US. This is without Germany's approval, by the way. And they start landing troops in the eastern, unpopulated parts of Greenland. And the US sees this, and they think, well, this is an invasion, because it kind of is an invasion. And so the US declares war on Denmark, leading the entire Yellow Alliance to declare war on the US. And this is going to be the final event for this video. So first of all, Denmark is kicked off of Greenland. That's obvious. Icelandic troops start getting sent to Denmark, as well as American troops. And a landing is made in the western corner of Denmark. While this is happening, Russian troops begin to enter into Slovakia and Hungary and kind of just take both of these countries without much happening. And so all of a sudden, Russia's alliance gets stronger. Meanwhile, American troops are landing in Denmark, and Germany is trying to fend them off, and they're doing it decently successfully. But then Spain asks France if they can move troops through their country to get to Germany, and France is like, actually, I have an even better idea. And France starts invading into Germany themselves to try and get some land out of it, but they don't let Spain move troops through there, so France is like, But Brazil is really mad about this, and they also want to, and so they just seize French Guiana. And that leads to tensions between the Brazilian and American alliances, especially as Belize decides to join the Brazilian alliance after being banned from the American one. And out of fear that Guatemala will do the same, Mexico, without American approval, decides to just invade into Guatemala. And the Brazilian alliance also decides to invade into Guatemala. And there's kind of a stalemate there for now. Once the US comes back to help, it'll probably be a victory for the US's side, but right now they're busy. Turkey, while all this is going on, decides to leave the Yellow Alliance, leaving it as just Germany, Denmark, and Czechia. Czechia also decides to leave the Yellow Alliance, seeing no hope. And Germany is starting to get invaded by France, so they withdraw from Denmark, allowing the US to easily take the rest of Denmark. And they continue into Germany. Then Polish troops start flooding into Germany, as well as Russian troops. In case that wasn't bad enough, Austria decides to might as well get something out of this and joins in on the war against Germany. And finally, once Berlin is seized, Germany will decide to surrender. And this is how Germany ends up getting divided up. So Denmark is made into a US puppet and gains some land. Germany is split into two. And then there's a French puppet known as the Confederation of the Rhine, of course. France and the Netherlands each take some land. And in the Americas, French Guiana is seized. In this war, it goes about how you would expect, with Guatemala falling, but not wanting a full war between the two sides. The US decides not to invade further. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.